You might be wondering why the Japanese constitution looks so different from the Meiji Code you read about in notes, and how a US general shaped Japan's post-war rules. By the end of this video, you will be completely clear about the origin, structure, and key features of the 1947 Japanese constitution and why those features matter for UPSC. Picture a country that rebuilt itself after a war and was handed a new rulebook. That rulebook is the 1947 Constitution, drafted under Allied occupation and associated with General Douglas MacArthur. Start with the origin. The modern Japanese state began to form in 1868 during the Meiji Restoration, and the Meiji Constitution of 1889 created an authoritarian monarchic system until 1947. After World War II, occupation authorities led by MacArthur guided Japan to adopt a democratic constitution in 1946 that came into force in 1947, often called the MacArthur or Showa Constitution. Think of the new constitution as a fresh rulebook. It has a preamble and 103 articles across 11 chapters, clearly written to put sovereignty with the people rather than the emperor. One striking clause is Article 9, where Japan renounces war and the use of force as a sovereign right. Imagine legally locking away the old war machine to prevent a return to militarism. That renunciation does not mean Japan has no means of defense. Instead, the state maintains self-defense forces for security, a nuance often tested in exams. The Japanese constitution is written and rigid, modeled partly on American ideas of constitutional supremacy and judicial review, and partly on parliamentary practice from Britain. Rigidity matters. Amendments can only begin in the Diet with a two-thirds majority and must then be approved by a popular referendum before the emperor promulgates them. Notably, the constitution has not been amended since 1947. So the amendment procedure works like a two-step safety lock that makes change deliberately difficult. Japan is a unitary state. Power is concentrated in Tokyo, and local governments exercise authority only as delegated by the central government. Unlike federal systems you may study in other countries. The parliamentary system gives real executive power to the cabinet headed by the Prime Minister, while the emperor remains a symbolic head of state with strictly limited functions. The cabinet is collectively responsible to the Diet, the national legislature, and if the House of Representatives passes a vote of no confidence, the cabinet must resign or the lower house can be dissolved. The Diet is bicameral. The House of Representatives is the lower house with greater powers, especially on budgets and confidence, while the House of Councillors is the upper house providing review. The emperor's acts require cabinet approval. So visually imagine the emperor as a ceremonial seal that only works after the elected government signs off. The constitution establishes the supremacy of the fundamental law. All statutes, ordinances, and official acts must conform to it, and the Supreme Court has the power of judicial review to invalidate unconstitutional laws. Judicial review here is explicit in the text, borrowing the American principle but anchored in Japan's own post-war experience to protect rights and prevent authoritarian return. Fundamental rights are detailed and expansive. 31 articles, roughly Articles 10 to 40, spell out equality, freedom, religion, property, economic and cultural rights, and constitutional remedies. For your UPSC answer writing, remember that the Japanese list of rights is more enumerated than the American Bill of Rights, and that the Supreme Court is the guardian of those rights. Another exam-friendly point is the constitutional monarchy element. The emperor is the symbol of the state and unity of the people, with no sovereign power, and succession is dynastic under Diet law. The cabinet appoints ministers, most of whom are from the Diet, and the Prime Minister is designated by the Diet, then appointed by the Emperor, a procedural detail that examiners like to test. The pacifist Article 9 and the role of self-defense forces create recurring debates about security policy, constitutional reinterpretation, and politics. So expect questions on legal versus political management of defense. Visually break the Constitution into three anchors to memorize: origin and intent, post-war democratization; structure and procedure, written, rigid, unitary, parliamentary, bicameral; and rights and restraints, fundamental rights, judicial review, renunciation of war. Use analogies. The Constitution is a safety manual for a rebuilt nation. It sets the rules, locks dangerous options, and gives courts the tools to check violations. Quick recap. Created in 1947 under Allied guidance, written and rigid, centers power in Tokyo. Constitutional monarchy with a symbolic emperor. Parliamentary cabinet, bicameral diet, strong judicial review, and Article 9's renunciation of war. This concept is very important for your exams because questions often ask about constitutional features, comparison with other systems, and the political impact of Article 9 in contemporary Japan. You've just covered the essentials in a way that you can visualize and recall under exam pressure. And towards the end of your revision, you should revisit how Article 9 shapes Japan's foreign and security choices. A key idea many aspirants miss. Keep testing yourself with short answer prompts. Explain amendment procedure. Describe Article 9 and its limits. And contrast the emperor's role with executive power. And you will ace the polity angle. If you want ready-made notes, quizzes, and a crisp revision chart tailored for UPSC-style questions, continue learning with EduRev. It will make this topic revision fast and exam smart. Good luck. Revise these anchors regularly. And remember that clarity of structure beats memorizing disconnected facts in the exam hall.